In this episode, Corey Davis and Robert Horvis talk about potato chips, vitamins, and store-bought juice, among other things.
Chips. This is one that's also one of my favorites
man.
because I love chips as much as the next guys, as much as the next Dr. Rob out there.
Sweating just thinking about it.
Oh, so delicious, that crunch. And you're right. So the spice and the yeast extract is another one that I think is very interesting. So you can have a category of spices. There's spice extract and yeast extract.
Naughty. You know, if they added in just organic brewer's yeast, great.
Sure. Nutritional yeast. That would be a nice additive.
Absolutely. Nutritional yeast. It's like we're getting a B vitamin supplement with our potato chips. 2-in-1, baby. But to get yeast extract, you're right.
It's monosodium glutamate. It's by any other name. It just happens to be naturally derived rather than the typical MSG that's more highly processed. The natural form, just like natural flavors, can come under the category of spice extract or yeast extract. So those are things that it's so ubiquitous. If you pick up any of you and I always talk about Costco. I shop at Costco. There's a really wonderful brand of bouillon that's there that has
better
a certified USDA organic, better than bouillon. Yeah.
Buddy, lovely, you and I, great minds think alike.
And you look at one of the main ingredients, it is this yeast extract. It's basically MSG by another name. And that's why that stuff tastes so phenomenal as a flavor additive versus just adding normal salt.
Umami,
so
baby.
It's tempting. It's the umami. That's right. It taps into some of our most primal sense mechanisms. And I would argue that these yeast extracts, they're as ubiquitous as added sugar, which is another one to really watch out for. And they are potentially as addictive in very similar ways, just on the other end of the spectrum of the palate, on the savory side rather than the sweet side. So those things are two ingredients to watch out for, eliminate as much as possible: yeast extract, spice extract. But that brings me to sugar, Rob, one of our favorite topics to talk about. I saw an interesting sugar ingredient recently on some corn dogs. They were gluten-free corn dogs that a friend of mine's kid was eating, and it said refinery syrup. And I thought, what is refinery syrup?
Actually, so this is something I talk about in my book a lot, which is, so when I walk, in part of my book, I do this. So I walk people through a grocery store, essentially, and I share with them a lot of what we're talking about today anyway, actually.
Love it.
But so gluten-free, a lot of the gluten-free products, those are funny enough, on one hand, those are the products where people are making conscious decisions. They're putting in a lot of effort to try and stay away from something they think is harming them, which is, let's say, gluten or wheat products. But a lot of the times when you look at these gluten-free breads, for sure, you're going to see these additives. You're going to see these sugars that you're referring to. You're going to see derivatives and tapioca products and just a whole bunch of ingredients that are just not nutrient dense at all. So if you're replacing wheat products with nutrient dense, whole, green, leafy vegetables, great. But if you're replacing one bread product for a fake bread product that doesn't contain gluten, but that contains all of these other additives, go to your fridge right now. I know it's a heartbreak. I'll be right there. You can cry on my shoulder. But go and check out your breads, your gluten-free products, and read the ingredients, because you're going to see half of the ingredient list you will not understand. And I would encourage you at that point, just put it down.
Yeah, I'm with you. A lot of those hidden derivatives are actually GMO byproducts as well. So some people can be very GMO savvy. But yeah, there's corn and soy derivatives, like what you're saying with the diglycerides and other compounds that aren't always caught by things that typically try to, well, of course you have the non-GMO project, which I think they do a pretty good job at enforcing and making sure GMOs are not in foods. They're not perfect. They're definitely not perfect in the realm of supplements from what I've found. So that's one thing you just want to constantly watch out for, is if you see a mystery ingredient and you're sensitive to consuming or supporting GMO foods, I think you'll find some interesting stuff if you ever search for one of these long equations, because typically you're going to find a GMO at the top of that chain, which can be problematic. Another thing is added vitamins. This is one of my favorite categories. If you have an ingredient list that anywhere says vitamin C or a B1 or a B2, they're not actually vitamins that have been added to that. If it was actually a vitamin, instead of vitamin C, it would say acerola or amla or some kind of food that provides vitamin C. And then you wouldn't actually see vitamin C on the ingredient list. You just see in vitamin C up in the nutrient or supplement, in the food case, it would be a nutritional facts panel, would just list vitamin C, and then the ingredient would say like acerola cherry, let's say. But if you see vitamin C as an ingredient and vitamin C on the label, what we're talking about there is a synthetic vitamin. It's not a vitamin at all. It isn't food. It's just another synthetic additive that's no different than any of the other ones that we're talking about, except for that it's got a molecular pharmaceutical shape that looks like a vitamin.
Who do they think they are? These people.
Well, yeah,
orange
processed
juice
food is all about value add, right? Like orange juice isn't good enough, right? You got to add vitamin D and calcium to make it better.
And you have orange juice, which is supposed to be a source of vitamin C. And then you look on the ingredients, you look in the nutritional facts panel, and you'll see vitamin C 100%. How is it 100%? It's not 100% of the recommended daily allowance by accident. It's because you're pasteurizing and that's not really the company's fault. They kind of have to, I believe, at least here in Canada and the US. So that's one of the very reasons in the case of juice that it's worthwhile investing in a juicer and making your own juice. But I understand sometimes you just want to treat, but you should know. Well, I don't mean you, of course. I mean, whoever's watching.
One should know.
One should know. But you and I know full well that when you get orange juice, you pasteurize it, that heat destroys the vitamin C as it's heat sensitive. And so they have to add vitamin C back in, but they're not adding vitamin C from food. They're adding it ascorbic acid. So to your point, yeah, it might look structurally, chemically similar to vitamin C itself, but it's not the same thing in context of an orange.
That's
so
right. It's much less potent, much less active than if you were to get that C embedded in its natural state, which is part of a whole food, which juices can be considered a whole food. You're right. If they're done, if you got a nice orange press, you can buy one of those really cool little orange press mechanisms, right? To make your own fresh squeeze is so much better for you.
That'll be $5.99, please.
Exactly.
American.
Not cheap to get out, by the way.
Yeah, which is like 10,000 Canadian dollars. No.
Yeah.